A very good morning, class 10 students. I welcome you all on this online platform provided by Jagrati Classes. So we are doing chapter 13th of class 10th, that is magnetic effects of electric current. And today we'll be completing this chapter in this video itself, because now you are only left with 2 to 3 topics. We have to discuss Fleming's right-hand rule, electromagnetic induction, solenoid and electric motor. So these are the 4 topics which would be covered in this video lecture. So this is the part 4th of the series, chapter 13, magnetic effects of electric current. You have been only given till the topic of electromagnetic induction in your new syllabus, and the remaining portion, which is electric generator, it has been deleted by CBSE. So we'll not be doing this. So let's start our today's class. We were on the topic of solenoid. So I gave you an introduction, or in the previous video lecture, we did what do you understand by solenoid. So before it, we discussed a great deal about current carried by a circular loop. So if you know the current carried by a circular loop, then you will easily explain what is a solenoid. So to define a solenoid, it is a device formed when the insulated copper wire is wrapped in the form of a cylinder, Okay, so remember this is an insulated copper wire, and if you take an insulated copper wire and wrap it around in the form of cylinder containing large number of loops of copper wire. That is, a solenoid contains very high number of loops. If you take a long wire and you try to wrap it, please remember that you do not have to make these loops one on the other, okay? These loops should be separated from each other. You can maintain a certain distance, or you can wrap it continuously just one above the other. So these loops you can see in this kind of manner. So actually when you are wrapping your copper wire, the insulated copper wire, into a cylindrical shape, making high number of loops, then it is called a solenoid. And solenoid, to understand solenoid, you should know that what is the mechanism of magnetic field, or what is the direction of magnetic field through one circular loop. If you know the direction of magnetic field through one loop, then solenoid is what? Many kinds of circular loops which are joined together. So when we'll revise that we have discussed, when you have a circular loop, then in a circular loop you have different direction of current at each and every point. So if this shows you the direction of current, then using the right hand thumb rule or the Maxwell's right hand rule, you can say what would be the direction of magnetic field through this circular loop. So when we are talking about a circular loop, when the direction of current is clockwise, then magnetic field which would be generated would be having a magnetic north pole, and when the direction of current is anti-clockwise, so the generated magnetic field, it would create a south pole. So at one end of that circular loop, north pole is created, and on the other end a south pole is created. I told you, consider this as a circular loop. So if you consider this as your circular loop, and if we apply right hand thumb rule, if this is my circular loop and the direction of current is in clockwise manner, so what I would be getting, if the direction of current is in a clockwise manner, then using right hand thumb rule, the magnetic south pole would form here. And if the direction of current, if in the front side current direction is in clockwise, then at the back side of the loop the direction of current would be opposite. That is, it would form a anti-clockwise direction or a magnetic north pole. So remember, if you have anti-clockwise, see here, anti means a north pole would be created, and if you have clockwise direction, then a magnetic south pole would be created. This you have to remember. Here you would have a south pole and here you would have a north pole. North because the direction is anti-clockwise and south because the direction is clockwise. So I hope this is clear. If this concept is clear, then you can easily understand the concept of solenoid. So solenoid is what we are combining many such kind of circular loops in one after the other. So magnetic field of all these circular loops, they would also combine, that is, we would add up the total magnetic field. So here the total magnetic field of solenoid, if I am required to find the total magnetic field passing through a solenoid, then this would be equal to the sum of magnetic field of each circular loop. That is, magnetic field of each and every loop, it would get added up, and when this magnetic field gets added up, then you get the total magnetic field of solenoid. So in the picture itself you can see that in this kind of manner, magnetic field or magnetic field lines, these are always present in the form of closed circular loops. So in one manner you will be having a north pole created, and at the other side you will have the south pole created. So this north pole is created when the direction of current, when current is flowing in an anti-clockwise direction. And the south pole would be created at the place where the direction of current is clockwise. And in this manner you will see that the intensity of magnetization or the magnetic field, it is having very high intensity. The direction would be from the north pole to the south pole, and from inside the solenoid it would be from south to north. Inside you can see that there are many parallel lines which are showing you the direction, whereas outside you have a spherical or circular loops which are showing the direction of field lines from the north pole to the south pole. So this depicts the kind of magnetic field present inside and around a solenoid. I hope this is clear. So now we will be doing the next topic, which is electric motor. Before this you can also see a circuit diagram. This is a solenoid, and what is the use of solenoid or its application? So this solenoid, it can be used to magnetize any kind of steel rod if you put any kind of steel rod inside this solenoid. Okay, we are putting this steel rod inside the solenoid. So solenoid can be used to magnetize the steel rod which is kept inside it. So solenoid, but remember it is a kind of temporary magnet. What do you mean by temporary magnet? Temporary and permanent magnets I have discussed with you in the introductory class. Temporary magnets are those magnets, that is, whenever we are supplying the current, only till that time this solenoid would act as a magnet. Once I switch off this key or I cut the current supply, then what would happen? This solenoid will now not act as a magnet, because with the cutting off supply of the current, this solenoid will lose its magnetic nature or magnetic character, and hence now this solenoid will not be able to work as a magnet. So hence solenoid is known as temporary magnets. So this is all about solenoid which you should know, and now our next topic would be electric motor. So what is electric motor? This is a very common device. Everywhere we have seen it, even in our homes or in offices, homes, shops. Let's suppose whenever you on a switch of a fan, as soon as I on the switch, what happens? The fan starts moving and the fan does a rotating motion. So I am saying as soon I switch on the switch, as soon as that time the fan starts rotating. It means there is some device which is converting this electrical energy into the rotational energy of the fan. Or we can say that fan is using electric energy in doing a rotation motion. So what is that device? This device is motor. So electric motor is a device which is used for the conversion of this electric energy into the rotational energy. And you have many more other appliances which undergo this kind of rotational motion. So electric motor, it is a device which helps to convert electric energy. It converts electric energy into rotational energy. And this electric motor, it is present in various devices. Like I told you, this electric motor, you can find it in the fans. Every object or every appliance which has a rotating function, you can also find it in the washing machines. Then you can even find it in the mixer grinders. Okay, so etc. These are some of the appliances which have electric motor in them. And this electric motor, it is used for converting the electric energy into the rotational energy. Rotational energy is what? It is a kind of energy which is used or required by the appliances to undergo a rotational motion. So now we have to study that what are the different parts of electric motor, or how does this electric motor works. Okay, so this is a diagram of electric motor. In the electric motor, you have different parts. So let's first write the components or different parts of electric motor. Components of a simple electric motor. So firstly, you have a rectangular coil present inside an electric motor. So this red rectangular coil is the coil which is in rectangular in shape generally. The next component which we have are the magnets, or we have the presence of magnetic field. This magnetic field is provided by using magnets. So you have two magnets. One is having north pole and the other is having a south pole towards this coil. The south pole of this magnet will be behind the north pole, and here if you have the south pole in front, then the north pole would be somewhat behind. So these are the two magnets which we have, and these magnets, they are used for generating magnetic field. Then the next, you should have some wires which are required to complete the circuit. Okay, these are the wires which we require. Then other you have as a source of potential difference, which would be the battery. So battery is used as a source of potential difference. Then next we require the most important device here is called commutator. So what is a commutator? This device which is in the form of a shape of split rings. Okay, commutator, it is made up of split rings. And then the next component, the sixth component of the electric motor, are carbon brushes. So if you can see the brushes which are depicted by this yellow sign or yellow color, these are the carbon brushes. So these are the different components of an electric motor. Now we'll be knowing how the electric motor works. So firstly, you should know these different components. Then we'll be seeing the use of each component. So this again, here it is drawn an electric motor, okay? And there it is being shown what would be the direction of motion. So let's see here. If we try to understand the working of electric motor using this diagram, then we know you have north and south pole, the two poles of magnet. So here you would have the presence of magnetic field, and the direction of magnetic field would be from the north to the south direction. So here the first point would be magnetic field is present. Magnetic field is present from north to south direction. Now you have the presence of magnetic field which is originated from the north pole and it ends to the south pole. Now in this magnetic field, when you keep a circular or a rectangular coil, this is the rectangular coil which is present inside our magnetic field. So what would happen when the current flows through this coil, then the direction of current would be this would be the direction of current flowing through the coil. Let's draw the coil here. Okay, so I'm drawing it separately for better understanding. And let's suppose I have joined it with the battery. So when I switch on my battery, then the current would start to flow in this circuit and the direction of current would be in this manner. So these black arrows, they denote the direction of current flowing through this rectangular coil. When the current flows, can you see how or in which direction the force would be applied? So when we have the presence of current and when we have the presence of magnetic field, then I have to find the direction of force applied. So this can be observed by using which rule? By using Fleming's left-hand rule. So this rule we have discussed in our previous class. So what is Fleming's left-hand rule? When you have the presence of magnetic field, when you have the presence of current, then the thumb represents the direction of force applied on the conductor. So if I stretch the fingers of my left hand in such a manner that I told you the thumb, forefinger and middle finger, these are used to denote the direction of F, I and B. So F is denoted by the thumb, current is shown by the forefinger, and magnetic field is denoted using middle finger. So if I apply Fleming's left-hand rule in this condition, then my forefinger would be pointing in the direction of current and the direction of magnetic field is here from north pole to south pole. So this arrow, black arrow, shows the direction of current. So this would be the direction of current. Now magnetic field is shown by the middle finger. So this is the direction of current. This is my conductor. This is the direction of current. And here you have the direction of magnetic field. This is B, which is magnetic field. So if forefinger represents the direction of current and magnetic field is represented by the middle finger, then the force on the conductor would be represented by the thumb. So in this condition, this conductor has a upward force. Okay, I hope this is clear. Here the force would be in upwards direction. Using Fleming's left-hand rule, if you can visualize the situation that the direction of current is this is the direction of magnetic field, so the force is applied towards you. Force is towards or outside the board. So in turn, here the force which is applied is in this direction, which is in upwards direction. And now if I apply the same rule, that is Fleming's left-hand rule, on the next part, then you can see that the force which would be applied, it would be in a downwards direction. So hence, by using Fleming's left-hand rule, we can say that in left side of the coil, upward force is being applied, and on the right side of the coil, a downwards force is being applied. And hence, this coil, because from here it is being pulled upwards, and this side is going downwards. So the coil shows a motion. It moves upwards from the right side and it goes down from the left side. You can consider this coil to be in the shape of your notebooks or books. So when you are moving your notebook up from one end and you are moving the same notebook below from the other, then the coil or the notebook starts rotating. So I hope this is clear, and the direction of force we have found out using the Fleming's left-hand rule. Okay. Let's suppose this is the current carrying coil which you have. If on this current carrying coil, the force applied here is on the upward direction and the force acting here is on the downwards direction. So this coil, it would move up from this side and it would go down from the other side. So it would undergo this kind of motion, that is the rotational motion. So here the coil present in the motor, it undergoes a rotational motion. But what happens is, the direction of force is not changing. From one side, the coil is moving up, from the other side, it is moving down. But in the next condition, if we observe that this was our coil, here the direction of force was upwards, on this side the direction of force was downwards. Now what is happening is, when the coil, it was straight, now when it would come in a vertical position or a right standing position, then what would happen is, because the two forces are still acting in the previous direction, so these forces, they would now return this coil back to its original position. We can explain it again. Our coil was in this position and it was moving in this manner. Now the force on this side is still acting on the upwards direction. So after attaining this vertical position, it would again come down, and hence it would not be able to complete one complete rotation or one complete circle. So what would happen is, we can write, after completing half rotation, after completing the half rotation, this coil again comes back to its initial position. It comes again back to its initial position. And when this coil returns back to its initial position, this means the motor would not move. And when the motor would not move, then your devices like the fans, washing machine, mixer, grinders, they would also not work. They would also not undergo complete rotations. But we know that the fan always undergo a complete circle or complete rotation. So, but if our coil is not moving, then the fan should also not move. This means because our devices are undergoing complete rotational motion, it suggests that the motor or the coil also undergoes complete rotation. So now how can you justify? For undergoing complete rotation, what we need is, we need that after completing half rotation, okay, let's suppose this was our coil, from this side it was moving up and from the other it was moving down. Now you have this condition, but the force is applied now in the opposite direction, so it is again coming back. We need that our coil should undergo a complete rotation. For this, you have to change the direction of force after the coil completes half rotation. So how can we change the direction of force? So to change the direction of force, you have two conditions. Using Fleming's left-hand rule, we have three parameters: force, current, and magnetic field. So I want that direction of force should be reversed, or it should be changed. If I need to change the direction of force, what I need? I can either change the direction of current or I can change the direction of magnetic field. If I reverse the direction of current, then the force will also get reversed according to Fleming's left-hand rule. Or what can I do is, I can change the direction of magnetic field. That is, I can put this magnet in opposite manner. Okay, if I put here the south pole and here the north pole, now the direction of magnetic field gets reversed, and in turn this force will also get reversed. But what it is done is, the direction of current is changed because it is comparatively easier to do. So we need to change our direction of forces acting on the coil because we need the coil to continue its rotation. For this, what we do is, we change the direction of current flowing through the conductor. And how can you change the direction? For changing the direction of current, you have to change the direction of battery. That is, now the negative terminal of battery would be here and the positive terminal would be at the opposite side. So for changing the direction of current, we change the direction of terminals of battery, or we invert the battery. Once you invert the battery, the force also changes. And when the direction of force, so we say that we change the direction of current, and due to this change, the direction of force also gets reversed. Once you change the direction of current, the direction of force would also get reversed, and due to which now the coil, your rectangular coil, it would complete its rotation. So when we change the direction of current, the direction of force also gets reversed, and the coil completes its rotation. So now this problem is solved. That is, now our coil, it is completing its total rotation or total spherical motion. But one more problem arises. You see there is a device which is called commutator, this device, which is having split rings. Okay, this is known as commutator. So what is the use of commutator? Let's see, if you just have your coil, this coil, and if I directly connect it to the battery. Okay, this is my rectangular coil, and I have connected my coil directly to a battery. I do not need any commutator here. So what would happen when this coil will rotate? The wires of the battery, the wires which are attached to the battery, these wires will also rotate. And as a result, due to continuous rotation of this coil, the wires would undergo entangled. They would cross each other and they would become entangled. So to prevent this condition, that is to prevent the wires from going tangled or from crossing each other, what we do is we use a commutator. So I hope this is clear. Why we do not make things complex, okay? We try to keep all the devices as simple as we can. But here I told you that this would be the direction of current which would be flowing in the coil. Once this coil would move, then these wires, they would also continuously move, and what would happen is, if I don't use a commutator, and let's suppose this is my coil ABCD. Now when the coil is moving, this AB points would come here and these CD would come here, because the coil has undergone a rotation. And due to this rotation, let's suppose this is AEF. Okay, the wire is AEF. So now what would happen? The wire would undergo, they would entangle or cross each other. And now if I do the second rotation, again if this coil rotates, that is, it comes to its initial position ABCD, then what would happen is my wires would cross each other many times. So to prevent this kind of communication, that is the crossing of wires, I use a device which is called commutator. And commutator is a device which is made up of split rings. Split rings means what? You have two rings, two C-shaped rings are present, and they have a gap in between. Okay, this is the gap which they have in between, so they are called split rings because these are not connected to each other, they are far away from each other. And then what we do is, we connect two brushes or two carbon rods, these are called the brushes. And to this brush, you have the wires of the battery attached. Okay, these are actually not joined, the brushes and the split rings. This split rings and the brush is not joined. These brushes are only moving on the split rings. They just slip on the rings. They are not joined to the split rings. So what would happen is, you can see this in the diagram, when your coil, this rectangular coil would move, then these split rings, they can also easily move with the coil. And these split rings, when they move, the brushes slip on the split rings. That is because these are not attached. When your split ring is moving, the brush is just attached to the split ring. Okay, so the brush just rotates on different parts of the split ring. And then you can have the connection, that is when you are using a commutator, then your wires do not get entangled. So this is the use of commutator which we have in our motors. And with this commutator, what would happen is the direction of force would get reversed. Once the force would be acting in a direction, I told you the direction just now using Fleming's left hand rule, and after completing half cycle, when we reverse the direction of current, then the direction of force would also get reversed. Okay, so this is basically how an electric motor works. I hope this is clear. In commercial purposes or in the industries, high power bar magnets are used, and instead of this single coil, you have a coil which is made up of many more turns, because we need to produce high or large amount of force, and large amount of current is also required when you are talking about industrial motors or the motors which are used in heavy industries, heavy apparatus. So this is how an electric motor works. Now you are only left with one last topic, which is electromagnetic induction. So what do you mean by this topic, electromagnetic induction? From the name itself, it is a very short phenomenon, okay? And we'll be discussing Fleming's right hand rule with this topic. So electromagnetic induction means when electro means electric current, okay? When current passes through a current carrying conductor, then it starts to behave as a magnet. And when this magnet, it is brought near a non-magnetic material, then a current gets induced in that non-magnetic material. So this is called electromagnetic induction. So in short, you can write it, when a magnetic material having magnetic field is brought near to a non-magnetic material, then a current gets induced in that material also, in that non-magnetic material also, and this phenomenon is called electromagnetic induction, EMI. Okay, so let's understand this electromagnetic induction with an example. Let's suppose you have a coil here and you have connected this coil with a galvanometer. This is your galvanometer. So what is a galvanometer? Firstly, you should know this. So galvanometer, it is a device which measures the amount of current, it measures the amount and the direction of current, okay? That is when you have no kind of current flowing through a circuit. Let's suppose I make a very simple circuit here, and this is the switch or the key, and this is the galvanometer. So when the switch is in off condition, then when the switch is in off condition, no current would flow through the conductor. And when no kind of current is flowing, then this galvanometer, it shows a 0 reading, or the galvanometer has its needle oriented in a straight direction. But what I do is, in the same circuit, here this is the galvanometer and this is the switch. Now when I on the switch, when the switch is present in on condition, what would happen? The current would flow through this wire, and now the galvanometer would show a reading. Either it can show a deflection in this direction, or it may show a deflection in the opposite direction. but any of one direction would be visible. So when there is no current flowing, then the deflection in galvanometer needle is 0. But when current starts to flow, then the galvanometer needle gets deflected, and this phenomena is known, okay? So now we'll be discussing what is electromagnetic induction. So let's suppose here I brought a magnet. The magnet was having north and south pole. When this magnet is moved, when this is present far away from this circuit, then here the galvanometer shows a 0 reading. But when I move this magnet towards this conductor, what happens is, due to the motion of this magnet, you know there is a presence of magnetic field, and when this magnet is moved towards the coil, then the magnetic field inside the coil will change, because now there is no magnetic field. But when this magnet is approaching the coil, these magnetic field also enter inside the coil, and hence we say that magnetic field inside the coil gets changed. And when magnetic field inside the coil gets changed, then this galvanometer shows a deflection. And the deflection in galvanometer means now the current is not 0, that is some amount of current is produced here, and this effect is called electromagnetic induction. So what is electromagnetic induction? If we write it in a summary, that due to the relative motion between magnet and the coil and the current carrying coil, what happens? Current gets induced in the coil. And this induction of current gets induced means the current is generated without any actual source of current present, okay? So this is called induced. So when we move the magnet near or far away from a coil, then the current gets induced in the coil. This is called electromagnetic induction. And if you are moving the north pole of the magnet towards the coil, then the current would increase, okay? The galvanometer would be deflected in this direction. But if you are moving now the south pole of the magnet towards the coil, then current would increase but in opposite direction. So the galvanometer shows the opposite or the reverse direction. So this is electromagnetic induction. Now you just have a rule which is called Fleming's right hand rule. Fleming's right hand rule, it is the same as the Fleming's left hand rule. You have to stretch your thumb, forefinger and middle finger in such a manner that these are mutually perpendicular to each other. So the thumb would represent the motion of conductor, this would represent magnetic field, and middle finger would represent the current produced. So Fleming's right hand rule, in this the thumb represents the motion of the conductor, that is the motion of this magnet where you are moving it. Then your forefinger, the forefinger represents the same, that is magnetic field B, and the middle finger, it would represent the direction of current. So this is about Fleming's right hand rule. And now we have completed our chapter, Magnetic Effects of Electric Current. I hope this was clear to you. I want you to practice all the questions, the exercise and the in-text questions given in your textbooks so that you understand the concepts more clearly. So thank you for joining today's class, and I hope to see you soon.